All right, welcome back to Way of the Wrench. Arcade cabinet is coming along. It's looking amazing, but now we're at the point where we have to disassemble everything. We're going to fill some holes, sand, prep, get everything ready for the paint. I've got some T-molding on order, and all that's coming in this episode, so stay tuned. All right, first up is disassembly, so I'm going to be carefully taking everything out of this cabinet so we can prep it and get it ready for paint. Alright, so the plan was to take this all apart individually and spray them individually and then assemble it after, but I don't have access to the shop, I don't have access to a compressor or a spray gun, so we're probably going to take it apart, put glue back into the joints, screw it in for permanently, and then we're going to fill those up. So take these panels apart, glue them, put them in. Bum bum bum. Now I got to edit that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one panel off at a time, glue it in, screw it in permanently, and then once all that's done we can move on to filling all the holes. Glued and screwed in permanently for good. It's time to just lightly hit everything with a piece of sandpaper and knock down any kind of high spots, and then we're going to start filling in all those holes and sanding them down. So let's do that right now. Alright, so all the high stuff's knocked down. Some of the nails when we put in the glue blocks stuck out just a touch bit, so those are all sanded down and everything's completely flat. And so the next thing is to fill all these holes, and then I guess we're going to have to sand all over again too. I thought I was done, but I'm not. I got this lovely control panel to work on too. Now I did kind of sand this a little bit from previously, but there is still some stuff that I need to knock down. Make sure it's nice and flat before I fill those in. And I don't want this to take too long, so I didn't tell this before, but I'm using 80 grit sandpaper. it's pretty aggressive, but it's like it's gonna get painted and primed a whole bunch and sanded in there too. So I just want to get it done fast. It's not gonna leave massive scratches in it or anything. So do that. And I didn't mention it before. Use a respirator. Don't be an idiot. This stuff's nasty. It's basically glue and sawdust, and you're gonna breathe that into your lungs, and it'll stay in there forever. So the sanding's all done. I'm just gonna use a vacuum real quick and get all of that dust off of everything before I start filling, so there's no issues with it not sticking, etc. Cool, that's all done. So let's move on to filling those holes. All right, to fill these holes from the screws and all the other various defects and stuff like that I want to fill up, you can use wood putty, or you could use automotive Bondo, but it's wood, so let's use the wood filler stuff. And this stuff's pretty easy, just read the instructions, can't go wrong with it. Use a putty knife, that way you can smooth it out and not have a lot of excess to sand off after. It says you can sand after 15 minutes, but they're usually pretty deep, so I'm just gonna wait, and probably wait overnight. So I'm gonna apply that right now. Man, this stuff's got the consistency of like sand inside your peanut butter. These holes are pretty deep, so I'm going to fill them, kind of like just push down the compound into it. I can foresee after my first sanding I'm going to have to touch up with a second coat, but that's fine. You know, I've got a couple screw holes here on the bottom side, and is anyone gonna ever see these? No, but you know what? I know about them, so I'm gonna fill them up. You know, it's always about doing the best job you can, right? So. Okay, control panel's done, moving on to the cabinet. And I've got a couple deep scratches here from actually putting it down on the wood shop tables that must have had a nail or a chunk of glue or something on it. So we'll fill those in at the same time. And we have a couple screws in there from when we screwed the two sides together to do the outside profile. So not a big deal, we'll just fill those in and keep going here. All right, that's the first filling. I'm gonna let this dry overnight and go grab some root beer. And tomorrow, I guess I'll give it a light sand, probably 200-300 grit. And then probably have to fill again, and I'll repeat that again. So in case I didn't mention it before, always use a sanding block. It can be anything that's flat, but you know, a nice piece of offcut wood that's nice and flat, so that when you wrap the sandpaper around it, if you were sanding something flat, if you use your fingertips have some curves on it, and they're going to go into the surface of the material and start making grooves. So always use a sanding block. Alright, so we got the VESA mount for the digital marquee monitor that we made at the shop, and I made it out of hot rolled angle iron. And so hot rolled steel has this kind of like black scale that comes on it. It's called mill scale, and in my experience, if we just paint over that, it'll start to kind of fleck off and you'll have holes in your paint job. So we're going to sand that up before we paint it. Alright, this would have been a much better job for the shop. Just throw it in the sandblasting booth and take all that mill scale off that way. But, you know, do what you can. And you can see all this loose scale that would have just come off with the paint. So, well, clean this up and then we'll spray paint it. Alright, so we're going to spray up this VESA mount for the digital marquee. And this is your like 60-second how to spray paint lesson. So, first off, the paint tends to separate inside all the solids and the thinners. So you got to give it a good shake for about 2 minutes or so, get that all mixed up. Next thing, pretty obvious, there's a little arrow on here. Make sure the arrow is pointing away from you so you don't spray yourself in the face. That's never good. And the distance you are away from where you're spraying is pretty important. It's about 6 to 8 inches. If you're too close, you're gonna have too much paint come out all at once, and it'll look like it's got runs and the paint comes down off the surface. And if you're further than 10 inches away, then you're gonna have most of the paint just go into the air and not go in your project. And have lots of overspray, which basically is like dust. And you can always do more coats. So start with simple little coats, do second coat, third coat, rather than just dump on too much spray paint all at once and have it look like crap. And when you go to spray, you don't just hold the button down and just go like this all over your project. Go off the project, put the paint on, spray across your project and off the project, and then shut it off. And you just do passes that overlap roughly 50% until you get good coverage. So let's do the VESA mount. When you're done painting, another tip for making sure that the spray paint doesn't dry up and harden inside the nozzle, basically making these things useless, is when you're done spraying, hold it upside down and spray for about 30 seconds and watch that the colored spray paint stream starts to go clear. And now you know that nothing in the tube or the nozzle is going to dry up on you, and you'll have this to use later when you need it. All right, all the sanding is done, so we're moving on. I've taped down a piece of plastic on the garage floor here so we don't get any paint. Easy clean up. And very next thing that we got to do is we actually have to use a tack cloth and get rid of all of the dust. So this is kind of an automotive finishing thing. You use these tack cloths. They're basically like a very sticky cloth, and you wipe the surfaces down that you're going to paint, and that takes absolutely any kind of debris or dust off before you start doing your final product. So we're going to do that right now. It might be a little hard to see, but there's definitely dust on this thing. That's what we're getting off. Okay, tack cloth done. Moving on to priming and sealing. So I'm going with this stuff here. It's MDF primer sealer. It's also a stain blocker, but I'm mostly wanting it for the sealer part of it because MDF is really absorbent. It'll suck up paint like nobody's business. So I'm going to use this stuff. Obviously read the instructions, but get a stir stick, give it a good mix, make sure it's all mixed up. Not a good idea to keep this open, so have another container or a paint tray to pour into. That way you're not getting it starting to harden up and dry up as you're using it. And then it's really up to you how you're going to apply it. So I'm going to be using a foam roller. They're going to give the nicest finish. If you get one of the cloth kind of puffy rollers, they leave a lot of kind of like surface texture, and I'm not looking for that. And I'm going to stay away from paint brushes, try to get away from any kind of marks from the paintbrush that they get left. And as always, kind of plan your projects, because there's some areas like in the corners here that are going to be a little bit hard to get the paint in. So I may pre-do it with a small foam brush instead, and then do most of the bulk of it with foam roller. So excited, I've been waiting for a long time. Let's get started. Battery life's going to kick out on me probably sometime soon, so if it gets edited out, I tried. There's plenty of other action I'll get video shots of later. Man, don't kid yourself. Be prepared for some work for this. And this is only the first coat of probably 3 or 4. Alright, so we had a battery kick out on us, and man, I guess I gotta get some extra supplies like batteries or a plug-in AC for this camera. So just to kind of recap of what just happened, I have primered my first coat on just about everything. I have to do the inside of the control panel and the top surface of the control panel still, but I'd also need to sand this and knock down all the top kind of fluffy things that happens to MDF and wood when you do a first coat of paint. Basically all the wood fibers kind of just start standing up, and the wood gets fuzzy. So probably like 220, 300 grit, give that a little knockdown. Not enough to take the paint off or get through any of that first coat. We just need to knock that down and get any high stuff off, and then another wipe with a tack cloth and give it another wipe down. First thought about this product, pretty good. Honestly, it says no odor, and there is no odor. Like, it's literally like I'm doing this inside my house where my vent is for the house for the air to come inside, and it's totally fine. I don't smell anything, even standing right here in the garage. So pretty good stuff. Its coverage is pretty good. One thing I do recommend, do not use those little angled foam brushes. Those are garbage. It literally started falling apart on me. So I've switched up. I'm going to start using just a paintbrush to do the edging, and then roller for the main big surfaces. That's worked pretty good. So I'm going to do some more painting here and do some sanding. So, alright, I got some 220 grit sandpaper. I'm going to use a sanding block, and I'm going to just knock down all those high fluffy spots from the wood when it puffs up first coat, and make sure I don't go through that first coat. So we're going to do that to the control panel and the cabinet, and then after that we'll give it a dust down and keep going. Oh my god, do I miss the shop. I would love to have a compressor and a spray gun right now. This is pretty brutal to sand out all these brush strokes. Oh well. That is an insane amount of sanding. All mostly because I'm trying to blend in where I did with that foam brush and the edging. Edging's still important, but man, that was brutal. I really miss my shop. I would kill to have a compressor and a spray gun right now. I'm this close to going out and buying one of those airless battery-fed sprayers tomorrow. Anyway, this is pretty much all sanded for one coat. Time to vacuum and get a tack cloth and put on a second coat. And I think I'm going to leave the edging. It's already sealed. There is T-molding going in there as well, so I think it's going to be a little faster, but that's hopeful. We'll see. All right, first coat's dried overnight, and I sanded for a whole bunch more hours to get this thing smooth as I can. So first step is vacuuming all that dust up, and then tack cloth and second coat. So we're going to do that. Alright, it's 9:30 at night, the kids are asleep, and back to the sanding. Dear God, I hate sanding, but in order to make a project look good, you gotta sand it. Or someone's gotta sand it, and you gotta pay them. So, if you don't want to pay them, you gotta do it yourself. So, sanding the second coat shouldn't be too bad. It should be a little bit easier. I try to take my time and not do so much crazy edging with that stupid foam brush. Man, that thing's garbage. I use the brush instead, and so hopefully it's not as bad. But let's get to the sanding. So that wasn't that bad at all. Honestly, I'm just knocking down a little bit of surface roughness. Kind of has the surface of like the surface of an egg, and I'm just kind of smoothing that out, and any little drips and any little kind of spills and things like that. But it's really quite minor now. So moving on. That's nuts, man. That's a lot of sanding. Did I mention I hate sanding? Yeah. So tomorrow I will vacuum and give it another wipe with a tack cloth, and then should be about 24 hours wait in between at least. And then we can maybe start putting some black satin coat, top coat on it. Yeah. Yes. That was a crazy amount of work for just 2 coats of primer, but that is it. I'm done with the white primer sealer. Overall, not bad product. It's pretty good. I could totally see why it'd be a good stain blocker. It kind of covers up everything really quite quickly, especially after the second coat. So this is literally the last stuff. Give it a light little sand, get the fuzzies off, vacuum, and then start doing top coat and start looking black. Yes. All right, getting ready to do the top coat with black satin. I'm going to take my tack cloth and wipe one down before we get started here. Part of me thinks it'd be cool to have a white cabinet, but I don't think it's going to last and look white a couple years from now. And it just doesn't fit the nostalgia, you know? It needs to be black and have cigarette burns and a crack in the glass where somebody punched the screen after not beating the level, that kind of thing. You know, there's something very soothing about painting black over pure white. It's very soothing, very zen-like. Not sure. I've got no music on, kids are asleep. It's very soothing. All right, so sanding is important between coats. Even if you have a perfect surface, you're gonna have to take 220 grit at least. Give it a light scuff just so that you can have some physical bonding to the next coat of paint. But I'm gonna show you a little zoom in here. You can see where I didn't get it perfectly sanded with my primer white coat. And so now that I've got a coat of black, and when I lightly scuff, you can really see the high points pop up. And I'm not going for perfect, especially inside the control panel, but you know, I am trying to go as good as I can, and so you can see what happens here. So I'll give you a show. All right, so I have had way too many days spent sanding paint brush marks out. I was as careful as I could be, but I mean, you're gonna have them still. And it's so tempting to go a little thicker with the paint just to get it to cover better, and then you end up with all these paint lines you have to sand out. So I've had it. I'm sure if I continued, I could still come away with a pretty good product. Just be more careful on really, really thin brush strokes, and I could get it to work. But I broke down. I want to spray, especially the top coats. I can't sand the last coat, so I want it to be just mint. It's too much effort gone into this cabinet just to have it look like crap from the paint. So I broke down. I didn't buy the cheapest airless sprayer out there, and I didn't buy the most expensive. I went kind of somewhere just a little bit halfway. So I bought this Wagner Flexio 590. This whole thing was $199.99, which screams wicked deal. I don't know why I didn't do this right from the beginning. It looks amazing. Don't do the paintbrush if you can afford it. $200-300, it's well worth it. You can use it for future projects too. All right, it's about 4 or 5 hours later since I've done the first coat with the airless sprayer, and I'm pleasantly surprised. If anything, it made such a nice smooth surface that it's really accentuated all of my paint brush marks and foam marks from my very first coat of primer. So I'm going to take a very light sanding with 220 and try to just get the high points down and get it ready for our second coat. Really impressed. I wish I had done this right from the beginning. So any of you future people doing these arcades or projects, don't even worry about $200. Try to figure out how you can get that, because it'll make or break your project. I can't believe how much sanding time I've wasted. I don't even know why. It's just brutal. Lot of sanding. I'm gonna leave the rest for tomorrow. Give another sweep of the garage, another tack cloth, spray another second coat of that airless sprayer, and maybe a third 30 minutes after. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. Yes! The arcade is now painted. That was a hell of a lot of work and a hell of a lot of sanding. So I feel great about the amount of work and how it turned out. And first off, congratulations for you guys for sticking through and watching a 45-minute video on how to sand and prep and fill holes and paint your arcade cabinet. But if you managed to stick in through the whole video, you got all my tips and tricks in there, and you have a really good idea of how much work it is to paint one of these guys and make a good end product. So if you're thinking about doing this, this is what you got to do, or you got to pay somebody big money to do it. So now that you have your arcade cabinet painted, you do have some options to try to protect the top surface from just everyday wear and over the years of use. First option is you don't do anything at all. As long as you've picked a really nice, tough, probably exterior brand enamel paint, that should be good enough, especially if you've picked your surface sheen level, you know, whether it's a matte surface or a gloss or a satin. In my case, I picked satin. If that's the case, then that's one option, and sometimes it's not a bad option, because if anything does get scratched or nicked or messed up on it, all you really got to do is mask everything up and give it another spray, and it's back to looking exactly brand new. So that is option number one. All right, option number two is some kind of clear coat protective to coat over top of your paint. Lots of different options, lots of different makes and manufacturers that make this stuff. You've got your Varathanes, you've got your polyacrylics, you've got your oil and water-based polyurethanes, you've got wipe-on, spray-on, you've got all kinds of options. So my recommendation on that kind of stuff is find a test place somewhere on your cabinet where it's maybe inside and it's not going to be seen, or even better, just spray a separate piece of MDF and try using it on that product to see what it looks like. So common problems that you can have is incompatibility with your paint. So you literally start wiping on your polyurethane and it starts wiping off your paint. So if you're going to do any kind of clear coating on top, I would recommend just spray it just for that reason. And if there's any kind of issues with it yellowing, so especially the oil-based polyurethanes, they tend to amber, is what they call it. It looks great on wood furniture when it's got a stain on it, but if it's got paint, especially some light color like white or cream or something like that, it's going to start to yellow and it'll probably look pretty horrible for you. If that's the case, I would stick with water-based polyurethanes for that reason. And option number three is you find yourself a wax, like a furniture wax or a non-cleaning, non-kind of additive automotive car wax, and that can protect the surface as well. It's more protecting it from kind of water. It's not as much as a durable kind of finish for a clear coat, but it is an option, and if you find that your paint is not as shiny or as nice as you'd like, the wax is a good option. Basically apply it on with a cloth, and then you can even buff it up to the sheen you want. And only thing with that, you kind of have to reapply it, so maybe every year or so, or every couple of years you have to redo it and rebuff it up, but definitely not bad. Probably not great if you're thinking down the road to start putting any graphics on top of the wax. You'd have to really remove that stuff, but that is an option. And option four, well, now that you've seen how much work it was to actually sand and fill and prime and paint all this stuff, you may actually be thinking, man, I don't want to do any of that. You could start looking into just basically quick clean and sand and applying vinyl right on top of the MDF. Not a bad option, except the MDF's kind of porous, so you probably still will have to do one or two kind of sealer coats just to get that vinyl adhesive to stick properly. And the other kind of thing you could do is actually look at applying a laminate. So something I haven't done before, but basically you construct your pieces while it's all individual. You spray adhesive all over the piece and all over the laminate, and you basically roller it and press it down, and then trim it with a trim flush router, and you get this nice piece of laminate board to work with. So some other options there. Now I decided to go with the first option, so I basically just picked an interior exterior acrylic polyurethane enamel, and it's supposed to be hard as nails when it's all done and cured. So I've gone with that, and I went with a satin finish. I don't want it to be super glossy because those show scratches like crazy too, and matte can start showing fingerprints and stuff as well. So I kind of picked something in the middle. All right, for those of you that are about to paint your cabinet, there are a bunch of things that I learned through this experience, and I wish I had known right in the beginning, and for you guys, you get that info right off the bat. So first off, edging is really important. If you can't get in there with a roller, then you got to get in there with a brush. However, these type of foam brushes, absolutely garbage, and especially oil-based. Basically what I had happen is as I was using them, they just would start to break up and degrade. It was even leaving chunks in the paint. So stay away from these. I wasn't a fan of them. I thought I might be able to get a smoother finish, but not in this case. Which leads me to the next one. If you're not going to use that, get yourself a paintbrush, but don't buy the cheapest black plastic looking paintbrushes you can find. I did have some of those that I used the first coat, and they tend to, every now and then, one of those bristles comes off and sticks in the paint, and then you have to take some time and pick it out and repaint that area. So give yourself, no, you don't have to buy the most expensive stuff, but just don't buy the cheapest looking brushes from the dollar store, etc. The next issue I had was the roller that I used. This diameter was not big enough, and what was happening is where the shaft of the roller handle goes into, I couldn't get it to go right into the corners because there was a 1/2 inch inset that I put on these panels from the edge. And so that didn't allow me to get this roller right close up into the edge, so I could basically get right in there and have a nice smooth finish. So that left me with 1 inch or so of paint brush strokes that I had to sand out later. So either find bigger diameter of these, or when you're designing your arcade cabinet, maybe don't go 1/2 inch, maybe go a little bit less just to make it so that you can do this easier. Or that leads me to one of my next things. If you can afford an airless sprayer, or if you have access to a compressor and a spray gun, do it. Don't even hesitate to think about it. If you can afford it, just go for it. That airless sprayer was amazing to use compared to doing brush strokes. It was way quicker. The water-based stuff was super easy to clean up too. You just go take it up to the sink and wash it all out really well and give it a spray with some water and you're good for next time. So highly, highly recommend the airless sprayer. Bam! There's another video from Way of the Wrench on how to paint your arcade cabinet. Hopefully you got some tips and tricks throughout the video and now you have a really good idea of what you're getting yourself into to paint one of these bad boys. But in my opinion, it was well worth all the work and effort and all the sanding because at the end of the day, I'm going to have an awesome looking cabinet that I get to play on. So next video coming up is going to be installing everything. I've got chrome T-molding, I've got vinyl graphics for the control panel, buttons, coin door, monitors, Bluetooth stereo. Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. If you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate a like. And if you have any idea how much work and effort goes into these videos, I would love you to smash that subscription button for me. This latest video was literally 400 gigabytes of videos, 30-40 hours worth of video down to 45 minutes so that you guys could make it through it and find it interesting and entertaining and educational. So until next time, take it easy.